There is a strange quietness that comes the day you decide to stop. You don't announce it. There is no dramatic message, no final ultimatum. It's an internal shift, a quiet click in the machinery of your soul. The hand that used to automatically reach for the phone now rests in your lap. The mind that used to race, composing replies to conversations that hadn't even started, is now still. At first, this stillness feels like a vacuum. It's heavy. Your body, conditioned to the rhythm of waiting, of checking, of being available, goes into a kind of withdrawal. Every phantom vibration of your phone is a ghost of the old pattern. Every hour that passes without a message feels like a verdict. You were the one who always filled the space, the one who sent the follow-up text, the one who asked the questions, the one who kept the conversation alive, like a tiny flame in the wind. Your availability was the very architecture of the connection. You were the reliable warmth, the soft place to land, the ever-open door. And now, the door is closed. Not slammed shut, but quietly closed and locked from the inside. And in the silence that follows, a terrifying question echoes. If I am not available, do I even exist? This is not about playing a game. This is not the no-contact rule as a strategy to win him back. This is something far deeper, far more terrifying, and ultimately, far more liberating. This is the moment a woman begins to reclaim the territory of her own soul, a territory she had, without even realizing it, leased out to someone else. What happens in his world when this territory is suddenly declared a sovereign state? What happens to a man when the woman he took for granted stops being available? The surface-level answer is that he will notice. Of course, he will notice. But what he notices, and how he reacts, is a direct reflection of the unconscious role you were playing for him. And understanding this is the key to your own freedom. Initially, he may not notice consciously. His life continues. He goes to work, he meets his friends, his routine remains intact. But on an unconscious level, something is off. It's like walking into a familiar room and sensing a piece of furniture is missing, but you can't immediately place which one. There's a subtle disruption in the psychic energy field that surrounded him. The constant low-level hum of your attention, your energy, your availability has ceased. For a man who was genuinely interested but perhaps complacent, passive, or afraid of intimacy, this absence begins to create a space where he used to find you, he now finds only himself, the echo of his own thoughts, the void of your validation. He might send a casual, low-effort message, a meme, a one-word question, expecting the usual, immediate, and enthusiastic response. He is testing the connection, like tapping a wire to see if it's still live. When your reply doesn't come instantly, or when it comes and it is calm, self-contained, and doesn't desperately try to re-engage him, the first real signal reaches his conscious mind. The missing piece of furniture is the chair you always occupied, the one right next to him, waiting, and it is now empty. This is the first critical juncture. His ego, the part of him that manages his self-image, is pricked. The story he told himself, "She's always there, she adores me, I can get back to her whenever," is now being challenged by reality. The comfortable certainty he enjoyed, the certainty that was built on the foundation of your constant emotional labor, has developed a crack. But this is only the surface. The deeper truth is far more complex and has its roots in the unseen world of the psyche, the world Carl Jung dedicated his life to mapping. To understand what is truly happening, we have to look beyond his behavior and into the realm of projection and the unconscious. In many relational dynamics, especially those where one person is consistently more available than the other, what is happening is not a simple connection between two whole individuals. It is a complex interplay of projections. A projection, in Jungian terms, is when we unconsciously place a part of ourselves, or an internal image, onto another person. We don't see them for who they truly are. We see them through the filter of our own needs, wounds, and expectations. A woman who is perpetually available often carries the unconscious persona of the eternal giver, or the good, understanding woman. This persona is a mask she wears, not to deceive, but to survive, to be loved, to secure a connection. It feels noble. It feels like love. But beneath this persona is a shadow, the part of her that is exhausted, resentful, and starved of reciprocity. And often, This persona is activated by a man who is unconsciously seeking a very specific function. He may have projected onto you the archetype of the mother, not in a literal, Oedipal sense, but the archetypal great mother, the source of unconditional comfort, nourishment, and availability. He wasn't necessarily in a relationship with you, the complex, multifaceted woman with your own dreams and needs. He was in a relationship with the function you provided. You were the one who soothed his ego, managed his emotional state, and assured him of his own desirability, without him having to do the hard work of true intimacy. So when you withdraw your availability, you are not just pulling back your time and attention. You are, in effect, withdrawing the projection screen. Suddenly, he is forced to see the blank wall behind it. He is forced out of the comfortable, psychic womb of your constant presence. His reaction to this is profoundly revealing. A man who is emotionally mature and genuinely connected to you as a person might feel a pang of concern. He might reach out with genuine curiosity. Is everything okay? I haven't heard from you. His ego is secondary to his care for your well-being. But for the man who was attached to the function you served, the reaction is different. It is often a mix of confusion, irritation, and a subtle panic that masquerades as anger or indifference. His ego is threatened. The source of his psychic supply has been cut off. This is not about love. It is about a disruption in his emotional economy. He might try to re-establish the old dynamic. His messages might become more frequent for a short time, but they lack depth. Hey, what's up? You've been quiet. These are not invitations to connection. They are attempts to plug the machine back in. He needs to know that the system is still operational, that his power over the dynamic is still intact. If you continue to hold your center, to respond with calm dignity, but without resuming your role as the initiator and emotional caretaker, his ego's panic will increase. This is where you might see one of two things: a sudden escalation of pursuit or a punitive silence. The escalation is the ego's attempt to regain control. He might suddenly shower you with the attention you craved for months. He'll make plans. He'll compliment you. He'll say the things you always wanted to hear. It feels intoxicating. It feels like a victory. Your mind screams, "It worked! He finally sees my value." But you must be incredibly discerning here. Is this a genuine change of heart? A true recognition of you as a person? Or is it a frantic attempt to get you to put the mask of the available woman back on? Is he loving you? Or is he trying to lure his projection screen back into place? The telltale sign is what happens once you become available again. If, after a few days or weeks of this renewed attention, you slip back into the old patterns, texting first, being overly accommodating, putting his needs before your own, and he immediately reverts to his old, distant behavior, you have your answer. You were not being pursued, you were being managed. His ego was simply recalibrating its control over the dynamic. He didn't miss you, he missed what you did for him. He missed the reflection of himself in your admiring eyes. The other reaction is punitive silence. If his attempts to quickly re-establish control fail, his wounded ego might retreat. He becomes cold, distant, perhaps even blocking you or disappearing completely. This is designed to punish you. The implicit message is, see what happens when you're not available? You lose me. You are nothing without my attention. This is the most painful test, because it preys on your deepest fear, the very fear that made you so available in the first place, the fear of abandonment. The empty chair now feels like an indictment. The silence in your home feels like a judgment. His absence seems to confirm the terrible story that you are not worthy of love unless you are constantly working for it. This is the moment of truth. This is where the real work begins. Because his reaction, whether it's chasing or punishing, is ultimately not about you. It is a mirror reflecting his own inner world, his own insecurities, his own relationship with his anima, the inner feminine archetype within a man's psyche. A man who is disconnected from his own anima, his own capacity for relatedness, feeling, and inner life, will seek it externally. He outsources his soul to the women in his life. He needs them to feel for him, to create the warmth for him, to manage the emotional world he is afraid to enter himself. When you, the external carrier of his anima, withdraw, he is left alone with his own inner emptiness. His anger and his silence are not directed at you. They are directed at the uncomfortable void you have revealed within him. The journey for you, then, is to stop watching his reaction and start observing your own. The pain you feel is not a verdict on your worth. It is an old wound being touched. It is the activation of what Jungians call a complex, an emotionally charged cluster of memories, thoughts, and feelings in the unconscious. For many women, this is the abandonment complex, or a worthiness complex, often formed in early life. You learned, somewhere along the way, that love and connection were conditional. They depended on you being good, being helpful, being quiet, being available. Your sense of safety became tied to your ability to please others, to anticipate their needs, to make yourself indispensable. Being constantly available wasn't a choice. It was a survival strategy. Withdrawing that availability feels like you are risking your very survival. The anxiety, the fear, the desperate urge to text him and fix it, that is the complex speaking. It is the voice of a younger part of you that believes her existence depends on someone else's approval. The healing does not lie in getting him to respond. The healing lies in learning to sit with that terrified part of yourself and not abandon her. It is about turning your attention inward and giving yourself the constant, unconditional availability you once gave away so freely. Imagine that empty chair again. For weeks you stared at it, a symbol of his absence. But now, you begin to see it differently. It is not his empty chair. It is your empty chair. It is the seat of your own life that you vacated to stand by the door, waiting for him. Returning to yourself is the act of walking across the room and sitting down in that chair. It is the act of occupying your own life. What does this look like practically? It means you stop waiting and you start living. You fill your time not as a distraction from his silence, but as a genuine engagement with your own soul. You reconnect with friends you neglected. You pick up the hobby you dropped because it took up too much time. You go for a walk, not with your phone in your hand, anxiously checking for notifications, but with your senses open to the world around you. You start listening to the music you love. You start creating a life that feels so full and rich that his presence becomes a potential enhancement, not a necessity for your happiness. Your energy, which was once a laser beam focused on him, now turns into a radiant sun, warming your own world. You stop analyzing his every word, his every silence. His behavior becomes less of an emotional trigger and more of a piece of data. The question is no longer, how can I get him to love me? But, does his way of relating actually nourish me? This is the point where the dynamic fundamentally and irrevocably shifts. Because you are no longer operating from a place of lack. You are operating from a place of wholeness. And from this place of wholeness, something miraculous happens. He can feel it. Even across town, even across the country, even in complete silence. Human beings are resonant creatures. We are attuned to the psychic states of others, especially those with whom we have been intimately connected. He felt your anxious, grasping energy before, and now he feels its absence. In its place, he feels a calm, self-possessed energy. He feels your center of gravity returning to you. You have become a closed circuit. You are no longer leaking energy in his direction. This is profoundly unsettling for a man who is used to feeding on it. He can no longer find you in the old, familiar places, in the constant texts, in the eager agreement to last-minute plans, in the patient listening to his monologues. He is faced with a choice. He can either let you go, accepting that the dynamic he was comfortable with is over, or he must find a new way to approach you. He can no longer connect with the function you served. If he wants to connect with you, he must now attempt to connect with the person you have become. This requires him to step up. It requires him to engage with you as an equal. It demands more than a low-effort "hey." It demands vulnerability. It demands that he confront the very intimacy he may have been avoiding. He has to risk rejection not by a woman who is desperate for his attention, but by a woman who is content in her own company. This is a far more intimidating prospect. If he does come back at this stage, he will be different. The approach will be different. It will have a quality of respect, of genuine curiosity. He will be meeting you on new ground, ground that you have cultivated and claimed as your own. He will sense that your availability is no longer a given. It is a choice. And your time is no longer a commodity to be consumed. It is a gift to be earned. This is the great paradox. The more you needed his validation, the less of it you received. The moment you stopped needing it and began to validate yourself, you became infinitely more valuable in his eyes. Not because you played a game, but because you changed the fundamental energetic reality of your being. You stopped being a reflection and became a source. But here's the most important part of this entire process. You must be willing for it to not work. You must be willing for him to not come back. You must be willing for him to choose to walk away. Because if your withdrawal of availability is just a covert strategy to manipulate him into chasing you, your energy is still focused on him. You are still standing by the door, pretending to read a book, but really just listening for his footsteps. Your psyche knows the difference, and so does his. True freedom, true power, comes from turning away from the door completely. It comes from becoming so engrossed in the life you are building, so in love with the woman you are becoming, that when you hear a knock, you are genuinely surprised. And you can open it not with needy desperation, but with calm curiosity, knowing that your world will not crumble if it's just the wind. This process is an act of individuation. It is the courageous journey from being half of a dysfunctional whole to becoming a whole individual in your own right. It's about retrieving the parts of your soul that you projected onto him. You thought he held the key to your happiness, your worth, your future. The work is to realize that you had the key all along. You just left it with him for safekeeping. So when you feel that painful urge to break the silence, to go back to being available, to make things easy for him again, remember the empty chair. Remember that it is the seat of your power. Every moment you choose to stay in it, to occupy your own life, you are strengthening your psychic core. You are healing the old wound. You are teaching that terrified inner child that she is safe, that she is worthy, and that she does not need to perform for love. His reaction to your absence is not the story. It is merely the epilogue to an old story. The real story is your return to yourself. It is the story of a woman who stopped asking if she was wanted and started to build a life so beautiful that it didn't matter. She became the one she had been waiting for. If this journey names something you have felt but never been able to put into words, take a moment to acknowledge your own courage. The path of returning to oneself is not easy. It is a quiet, often lonely rebellion against a lifetime of conditioning. The dynamic changes not because you became less available to him, but because you became fully available to yourself. He may feel this shift as a loss, a shock, or a mystery. He may see you as suddenly cold or distant. He might tell his friends you've changed. He would be right. You have. You have undergone a profound alchemical transformation. You have taken the lead of your neediness and desperation and begun to turn it into the gold of self-possession. And what happens to a man who encounters a woman made of gold? He is forced to see his own reflection. If he is made of compatible substance, he will be drawn to her light. If he is not, the brightness will only expose his own shadows, and he will retreat. Either way, you are free. You are no longer waiting in the dark for someone else to turn on the light. You have become the light, and your availability is no longer a desperate plea to be chosen. It is a sovereign choice, offered freely, but never again at the expense of the woman in the chair. My availability is no longer the currency for my worth. This is not just a mental shift, it is a profound, somatic repatterning. Your body, for so long, has held the memory of this dynamic. The tension in your shoulders as you waited for a reply, the shallow breaths you took as you typed out a carefully constructed message designed to please, the knot in your stomach when a day went by in silence. This is what is known as body memory. Your nervous system was conditioned to equate his attention with safety and his absence with threat. The withdrawal from this pattern is therefore a physical experience. It is a detoxification. The anxiety you feel is not just in your mind, it is a chemical reality in your bloodstream. Your body is screaming for its familiar dose of cortisol and adrenaline, the cocktail of stress and anticipation it had learned to live on. It mistakes this chaotic state for being alive, for being connected. The stillness, by contrast, feels like death. Your task is to endure this somatic storm without acting. When the urge to text him feels like an unbearable fire in your hands, you must learn to place those hands on your own heart. You must learn to breathe into the tightness in your chest. You are teaching your body, on a cellular level, a new truth. I am safe, even when I am not chosen. I am safe, even when I am alone. My own presence is my anchor. This is the hidden layer of the work. It's not about willpower, it's about nervous system regulation. It's about mothering yourself through the withdrawal, moment by moment. And as you do, you will begin to notice the concrete inner signs of a true shift. Signs that go far beyond his reaction. The phantom vibrations in your pocket will cease. One day, you'll realize you haven't checked your phone in hours. Not because you were forcing yourself not to, but because your mind was genuinely, peacefully somewhere else. When his name does eventually appear on your screen, you will notice the absence of the familiar lurch in your stomach. The spike of hope and fear will be replaced by a calm, neutral curiosity. It's no longer a summons from your king. It's simply a notification from another person. You will begin to feel a strange new sensation in your own body, energetic sovereignty. It feels like a quiet hum of power in your solar plexus. It's the feeling of your own life force, which was once hemorrhaging outward in his direction, now circulating within you. You feel full. Solitude no longer feels like a painful void of his absence. It feels like a rich, nourishing space of your own presence. This is the point where you stop seeing his behavior through the filter of your hope. A low-effort "hey" text is no longer a seed from which you can grow a fantasy of his undying love. You see it for what it is, a low-effort bid for attention, and you feel no obligation to respond with high-effort enthusiasm. Your response, if you choose to give one, will match his effort. Not as a tactic, but because your energy has become too valuable to waste. This shift is possible because you have begun to engage with your own shadow. The good, understanding woman persona that was always so available had a shadow, a part of you that was relegated to the darkness of your unconscious. This shadow contains all the things you were not allowed to be in order to be loved. Angry, demanding, selfish, wild, and sovereign. It holds the righteous rage of being taken for granted, the grief of being unseen, the immense power of your own unmet needs. For so long, you were afraid of this shadow. You thought it made you unlovable. But in this process of returning to yourself, you begin to tentatively reach into that darkness. You allow yourself to feel the anger without judging it. You allow yourself to grieve the time you lost. You start to listen to what this shadow self wants, and you discover that she doesn't want to destroy everything. She wants to protect you. She is the fierce guardian of your soul. Integrating this shadow is the key. It means you are no longer just light, pleasing, and accommodating. You now have depth, boundaries, and a healthy dose of what is called sacred selfishness. You become a woman who can say no without guilt, because your yes to yourself has become more important than your yes to anyone else. This integration is what creates true magnetism. It's the allure of a person who is whole, who is not seeking a missing half, but a fellow whole person to walk beside. And this wholeness will face its most difficult and subtle test. Forget the initial love bombing or the punitive silence. The late practical test comes much later, after a long period of no contact, when you have truly built a life for yourself. He will reappear, but he will not be the same man. He will come back with a narrative of change. He may have gone to therapy. He may have had a revelation. He will be articulate, seemingly vulnerable. He will apologize for his past behavior with a sincerity that feels breathtakingly real. He will say the words you once starved to hear. I was a fool. I wasn't ready. I see who you are now. This is the final boss battle, because he is not testing your boundaries with bad behavior anymore. He is testing them with good behavior. He is offering you the very dream you once desperately craved. The old you would have melted. The old you would have seen this as the triumphant end of the story. Proof that your waiting and your worth were finally validated. You would have rushed to forgive, to comfort him for his past pain, and to rebuild the connection on his new terms. But the new you, the woman who has sat in her own chair and reclaimed her soul, will do something different. She will listen. She will receive his apology with grace, but she will not be swept away by it. Her primary internal question is no longer, is he telling the truth? But rather, how does this feel in my body, right now? Her nervous system, now attuned to her own truth, will be the ultimate polygraph. Does his presence, despite the beautiful words, create a subtle tension in her gut? Does she feel an old, familiar urge to start managing his feelings, to reassure him that his past mistakes are okay? The test is your ability to remain centered in your own reality, even when he presents a compelling new one. It is your ability to move with excruciating slowness. You can appreciate his words, but you will wait to see if his actions align with them over a significant period of time. You will not clear your schedule for him. You will not drop your new passions to make space for him. You will continue to live your full life, and you will observe how he fits into it, not how you can contort yourself to fit back into his. The ultimate test is your ability to hear, "I love you," and respond, not with an automatic, "I love you too," but with a calm, centered, "Thank you for sharing that with me." It is the ability to hold the space for his vulnerability without immediately taking responsibility for it. You are no longer the caretaker of his emotional world. You are the curator of your own. And whether he passes this test or not, whether his change is real or just a more sophisticated strategy, eventually ceases to be the point. The victory was never his return. The victory was the fact that you no longer needed him to. This journey back to yourself culminates in a soft, quiet peace. The frantic energy of waiting is replaced by the gentle rhythm of being. You find that the architecture of your happiness is no longer a fragile bridge to someone else, but a solid foundation built within you. Your inner world, once a barren waiting room, has become a lush, secret garden. You have tended to it, watered it with your own attention, and planted the seeds of your own joy. You know its paths, its quiet corners, its seasons of blooming and rest. His potential presence in this garden is no longer a matter of life and death. He is not the sun, the rain, or the soil. He is, at best, a visitor. And you, the sovereign gardener, get to decide if the gate opens, for how long, and whether his presence helps your garden thrive or tramples the delicate things you have worked so hard to grow. This is the ultimate shift in the dynamic. It is not about power over him. It is about power within yourself. The question is no longer about his availability, but about your own. Are you available for your own dreams? Are you available for the whisper of your own intuition? Are you available to savor the beauty of your own precious life, right here, right now? When you are fully available to yourself, you become a beacon. The right man, a man who has tended his own garden and is not looking to plunder yours, will be drawn to your light not to consume it, but to stand beside it, sharing in its warmth. He will not be intimidated by your wholeness. He will be inspired by it. And you will finally understand that the most profound love story is not the one where you finally get the man. It's the one where you finally get yourself. The rest is just a beautiful possibility.